In autumn of 2008, Bethesda relaunched the Fallout series, scoring great reviews and introducing the franchise to a whole new generation of fans. Fallout 3 managed to be one of the most impressive open world RPGs ever made, but not everything that was supposed to be featured in the game made it to the release day. Like most games of its size, there was plenty of content left on the cutting room floor. This week we're going to dive into the content and give you just a little peek of what could have been. One of the most memorable aspects of Fallout 3 was its great music, provided by a few radio stations in the game. But one station didn't quite make the cut: Tenpenny Tower Radio. That's right, an entire station dedicated to both music and, maybe more interestingly, Alistair Tenpenny's musings on life. The station had quite a bit of unused dialogue, including generic radio intros like,
"Thank you for listening to Tenpenny Tower Radio Service, brought to you by Alistair Tenpenny. You're listening to Tenpenny Tower Radio, the sound of progress."
But it also included segments called Tenpenny Truisms, where Alistair would impart opinions like,
"Never wonder for a moment if you're worthy of the benefits you possess. Rather wonder always if you have utilized them to their fullest.
and
On that vast plain of dust we will raise new cities, and like the phoenix spread the wings of new life and take flight."
moving on from radio, there is also plenty of creatures that failed to make it in the final version of the game. One interesting example is the Man-O-War Tendril Floater. This creepy Lovecraftian beast was originally supposed to be similar to the regular floater, but with a distinct eye. For whatever reason though, this was dropped and the only known design can be found in The Art of Fallout 3. In that same book, you can find the Needletooth Floater, which resembles a spider with a somewhat human-like head. And the Lamprey Floater, which is just horrible looking. Mirelurks are already strange looking things, but there was originally a plan to have a humanoid version of them, called Catfish Mirelurks, roaming the wasteland, but there simply wasn't enough time to include them in the game. One of the weirdest creatures from Fallout 2, the Wanamingo, whom was based on the Xenomorph from Alien by the way, was also slated to reappear in Fallout 3. Ultimately though, Bethesda decided against using it. Some of the most notable cuts to the game were done to the weapons. These included the creatively named Excalibat. Sure, it may look like an ordinary baseball bat, but it was actually going to be much more powerful, not to mention fully repairable when it was damaged. This special bat was planned to be a light parody of the King Arthur legend, where players would have seen a glowing bat stuck in a rock, and could have pulled it out and used it as a weapon. Oh, and speaking of swords, the unique Chinese officer's sword called Clover's Cleaver was also supposed to be a playable weapon in the game, and would have been a bit more powerful than the average blade. Another weapon cut from Fallout 3 was the deadly Cryolator. Although it would eventually appear in Fallout 4, the version used in that game looks much different from the one cut here, though they would have functioned very similarly. The Cryomine and the Cryo Grenade were also originally meant to be part of the base game, but were instead added later on in the Mothership Zeta DLC. A powerful pistol called the Law Dog, a unique .32 with increased damage, was also going to be in the game, with the developers even going so far to record specific firing sound clips for it. But for unknown reasons, it was dropped at the last minute. One of the coolest weapons cut from the game though has to be the Discharge Hammer. Found in the files of Broken Steel, this heavy duty beast would have both caused massive damage and sent an electric shock into whoever you're fighting. It would have also been able to strike about 600 times before finally breaking. Another fun fact about the development of Fallout 3 was that the throwing skill was once going to be a component in the game, which would have focused on giving the players a chance to hurl items at enemies to attack them. This makes a certain amount of sense, especially considering that throwing was a skill featured in the first two Fallout games. Bethesda even created Pip-Boy art for it. In the end though, this was cut and consolidated into the explosive skill. But at least the art didn't go to waste, as New Vegas would eventually use it in the Heave-Ho perk. Is there anything you wish made it into Fallout 3? Be sure to let us know in the comment section below. Speaking of comments, now it's time for our comment showcase. Shawnee Lombo commented to tell us their theory about the Institute Cursors, who could be a reference to the very obscure movie Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, which features a pretty similar story and design. Next up is our shoddy comment from Hamguy Bacon, who says, "The dickheads of steel." Hey! That's fair, I guess. Sometimes they can be a bit like dickheads. Lastly, we have our trivia. Last week's episode, we asked you what year Deus Ex Mankind Divided was set, and the answer was A, 2029. This week, we have a fully related question. What was the original name of Med-X, which is still used in the Japanese and Czech versions of the game? Is it A, methamphetamine, B, med magic, C, morphine, or D, rack? Tell me your answer in the comment section below, and while you're down there, do tell me what your thoughts are on the best thing that could have made it into the game that was actually cut from Fallout 3. I'm interested. My name is Andrew, or Stelly, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you guys on the next video of Hidden History.